The Jazz are one massive happening away from being perennial contenders. Who's best suited to take the Jazz there? Find out next on Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Jazz Nation? Welcome into Locked On Jazz. My name's Leif Thulin. I'm excited to be back with you guys. Honored for the opportunity to fill in for David Locke on Locked On Jazz. Most of you guys know me, but if you don't, I'm a statistician for the Utah Jazz, draft nerd, and a diehard fan of our beloved Utah Jazz. Thanks for making Locked On Jazz your first listen each and every day. Remember, Locked On Jazz is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where the best way to help us grow is ask a question, comment below on YouTube. And today's question to answer is, who would you draft number one and why? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, on the show today, I've got a good one for you. I'll break down my draft board with in-depth analysis of each of the big prospects: Darryn Peterson, AJ Dybantsa, Cam Boozer, and maybe a little bit about Caleb Wilson as well. I'll tell you who I prefer stylistically for the Jazz, trajectories of each of them, and comparisons of all of them. So let's dive right in. For me personally, I have a clear 1 through 4. I don't think it's as close as some do. I have it 1 through 4, and I'm going to go in order. Number 1 is Darryn Peterson, and I do not think it will waver. Darryn Peterson has been my number 1 since before this college season started. Before it even got close to starting, I love Darryn Peterson's game. And maybe I've got some confirmation bias in there. But Darryn Peterson, to me, has been one, will be drafted number 1, and it would be the ultimate grand prize for the Utah Jazz. So let me start with breaking down his game and his fit with the Jazz, my expectations for him as a pro wherever he goes, but hopefully the Jazz, and potential All-NBA comparisons that he draws. So what he does best is he is an elite, polished scorer and a creator of havoc for defenses. He's highly, highly efficient at all 3 levels with a quick first step. He's got good handles. He's got long arms that help sell those handles. He excels in isolation situations, especially when fully healthy, where he can blow by you to the rim, use the threat of his shot to get to the rim, or the threat of his speed to step back and shoot. He's got you at you're his victim, and you have to pick your poison when defending Darryn Peterson. And as a spot-up shooter, there's a world he's the best shooter in this class with a bunch of elite shooters. That's how good he is and how gifted as a mechanical shooter he is. The other thing that stands out is, with that kind of list of accolades that he's got, you typically don't see a guy who uses all these skills because those guys don't typically have a physicality, a wingspan, a size. Well, he's got a 6'6" frame with a 6'11" wingspan, big hands, and he's got the frame to finish over defenders, the extension to do so as well, and he's got the size to bully smaller guards. And for Jazz fans, this is particularly important. A diminutive backcourt is not one you want now, and his size to pair alongside Keyonte George, fret not. They've got plenty of size in the backcourt, and defensively, he shows off some potential. Like, that is a concern, is want to, but he's got great instincts, and he's averaging nearly 3.5 stocks, steals plus blocks per game at the guard position in college. And that's really hard to teach. Instincts, length, and coordination, hard to teach. It makes him a solid, I wouldn't say special, but solid, disruptive on-ball defender. And I want to get back to what makes him special, because there's a lot of guys who can do some of this. What makes Darryn Peterson so special is offensively, he does not look rushed. He does not look pressured. And he's got this beautiful rapid release jumper that he's got this comfort of minimal space, can elevate and score. Creates a lot of space, can elevate and score. Can drive, doesn't look bothered, doesn't look sped up at all, and scores. There's a few baskets I want to talk about in particular, and if you guys can look these up as they go, but I'll try to draw them out for you as best as I can. Darryn Peterson against Texas Tech catches this flare screen. So he's fading to his right, catches the ball, and JT Toppin, an All-American, is there on the catch with his hands up, glued to Darryn Peterson. Darryn Peterson head fakes and shows the ball a sliver. Toppin drops, fading to his right, splashes the ball with the utmost ease. Next possession comes off to the left side, live dribble above the break 3, where he shoots it with the defender who's on his right side, trying to contest to his right. Peterson's right-handed, goes to his left, fades, splashes it. The ball had never had any doubt if it was going to go in or not. And then one other big point of just how calm and easy this is for him. While he was injured, while facing scrutiny for missing games, and of course that is a big knock on him, he missed time against TCU, came back with about 15 seconds, got fouled shooting a 3-ball. And yes, he just made 3 free throws. But how many guys can sit on the bench for 30 minutes of real time, not stand up, and then step into a game and make 3 free throws with an arena dead silent, just like, okay, well, he's got to make these. And not only did he make them, none of them touched the rim. Smooth as silk, composed, skillful, and I think a better passer than he's demonstrating at Kansas because they played 2 guards, and one of the guards, his name's Melvin Council, and Council cannot play off the ball. So it puts Peterson off the ball, and his role is just to score the rock. I think he's a better passer than demonstrating. You watch him against BYU, one of the best plays of the game in which he outdueled AJ Dybantsa, and severely so, was he came off a screen, and everyone's going to talk about his dunk on Kebaketa, but Kebaketa comes out and defends, and he throws a skip pass live dribble right on target, opposite corner 3-ball. Darryn Peterson's got stuff you can't teach. He's got this pedigree of being taught by older pros and always looked the same, just calm, unfazed, and unflappable. Now let's talk about where he can improve. I think he can pass more. I do have context, like I just said. And I think his finishing variety can improve. And what I mean by that is, though I think he's pretty good at the rim and the numbers would support that, I think his floater and when he shoots the floater versus a mid-range jump shot can improve, because I think he either stops and shoots a mid-range pretty early, or he ends up shooting an out-of-control floater when rushed off the line. I think there's stuff he can improve there, but he's very rarely sped up, and so that's very much nitpicking. Now, this is where I really want to talk about ceiling. The reason that Darryn Peterson's number one for me, and along with all those things, and I think he's the best scorer, I think he's got the most potential. But I've always said you need a franchise-altering talent. This is a chance to get one should the Jazz have a chance at him. But I see a few of these guys, and not only Darryn, but also AJ, with the talent to be all-stars as their floor, and their ceiling to me is gaudy. In the case of Darryn Peterson, he's got the most ridiculous ceiling. And I see a world where he's a 10-time All-NBA guy if he has a clean bill of health. And that I've never said that about a prospect other than Victor Wembanyama. And the difference between he and Cooper Flagg is I think Cooper Flagg is more rare due to size and age coming up. But, like, this guy's the best guard I've ever seen. And I watch a lot of film, for those of you who know me well. I'm a complete nerd for this stuff. And let's talk about comparisons, because, of course, there's going to be comparisons. I think there's a world where Darryn Peterson steps into the NBA, to be clear, and scores 20 a game on a solid team. Hopefully our Utah Jazz. Scores 20 a game right away. And for his career, he's a 25 to 28 per game scorer, 5-6 assists, and shoots the cover off the ball. And his that's not even like the peak. I think that's consistently what he's going to be able to do. I think there's a world in which he explores the 30-point territory and plays winning basketball. I'm very, very high on him. And you know what means he's really good? When comparisons that are lofted around most frequently are that of Kobe Bryant. To have the skill and the game to have Kobe floated around as a comparison and it not be like, what on earth are you talking about, is the biggest praise you can get. And that's crazy high praise, of course. To me, the comp I'll give, because I just shy away from giving Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame guys, top 10 players ever as comparisons. I lean more towards like a skinnier version and a more scoring-oriented version of Cade Cunningham, where he's not sped up, he gets to his spots and scores the ball easily, creates for others. And Cade, that's high praise as well, because he's leading the Pistons to the Eastern Conference. Like, they're the Eastern Conference favorites right now. And lastly, another comp is kind of a skinny version of young Brandon Roy. Someone who can score in a plethora of ways, has no holes in his game, as said by Kobe Bryant, and can score the rock from inside, can score it from out, uses size to create advantages for others. And then if we talk about fit, I wanted to get to this point as well. I think there's a concern about, did he and Keyonte clash? And many would then lean towards AJ because he's bigger and it's more clear he's a 2-guard. I think Peterson is a lead guard. I think he is capable of playing point guard, but I do not think it's a clash. I think it puts the Jazz in the best direction possible, because Keyonte can play the point and supplement the scoring of Darryn Peterson, and Darryn Peterson can take some of the pressure of playmaking off of Keyonte. They can both take turns facilitating, both have fine size. It's not the biggest you could get, but when you complement them with Lauri at the 3, Jaren at the 4, and Walker at the 5, all of a sudden you're enormous all around the court. You have spacing, and he's got the ability to manipulate the game and score from every facet, from right at the rim, from mid-range, from three, and I even think he's got a fourth level in which his off-the-dribble stuff is uncanny. And I think that's something that is untapped by the other prospects. So to me, Darryn Peterson is the golden medal. Like if you got a golden prize, the golden goose picking number one, Darryn Peterson is the optimal pick for the Utah Jazz, if you ask me. Well, some would say AJ Dybantsa. We'll talk about AJ next on Locked On Jazz, and we'll talk about that with a chance for you guys to win a trip to the NBA Finals. All that and more next on Locked On Jazz. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to do so, to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. And here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you automatically will be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole Shabbat Shalom, all right there. The whole experience beautifully given to you by FanDuel. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, you've scoured the board. This is the perfect time to place it in and lock it in. And now, not only can you cash your not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. You get money and a trip to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let me also tell you guys about Murdoch's. Murdoch's have been in Utah, and that's Murdoch Chevy. Murdoch's have been in Utah for over 80 years. Chevy's as American as it gets. It's synonymous. When you think of America, you see a truck coming down a dirt path in a movie, it's going to be a Chevy because, of course, it is. And there's two locations, Logan and Woods Cross, and they've got great lineups of trucks. They got the inventory online, so you see the latest deals. And you can find yourself not only trucks, but SUVs too. And they'll take great care of you, especially if you let them know your listeners are Locked On Jazz. All righty, guys. Welcome back to Locked On Jazz. And I want to tell you guys about an opportunity that you guys should not be sleeping on. And it is the Everydayer Club. The Everydayer Club allows you to get Locked On Jazz, your beloved show, ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access with David Locke, myself, and many others. And you can join at https://lockedonjazz.supercast.com. And for all of the all-access members, I give breakdowns 3 times a week of the NBA draft, the latest players, who I would take where, and much, much more. And, of course, Locke has a ton of special Jazz content for you guys just for $5 a month or $50 a year. All righty, guys. Back with you and back talking the NBA draft. It's a pleasure to be back on Locked On Jazz. I missed you guys a ton, and I want our Jazz to get a great pick. So, of course, I'm talking about the top picks and the top potential. Jazz got to get there first. But I mentioned Darryn Peterson is the grand prize for me. And I've said this on all access videos. AJ was closer to 3 than 1 for me, and probably still is closer to 3 than 1 for me. But that speaks highly of Peterson and of Boozer more so than it speaks lowly of AJ. I just think Darryn Peterson's a special, special player. AJ has a tremendous game. He's got through-the-roof upside due to his size, his facilitating ability, his scoring, his uncanny ability to get to the line. And recently, he's been tremendous. And I've been pleasantly surprised with the growth of his game as a passer and the ability to study the floor and learn who's open and draw and kick. But the difference to me is it doesn't look as natural at scoring the ball as Darryn Peterson. Darryn Peterson looks like he goes on the court and knows how to score no matter the coverage. AJ can score, but it's really hard earned. It's very much, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to back down, get to my spots, and elevate. Is he polished? Absolutely. Does he have skill in the post? Does he have skill from the basket? Can he shoot the 3? Yes. All these things are true. AJ is a 3-level scorer who can create his own shot utilizing a strong first step. Like, I don't think he's the run and jump athlete that some people build him to be. I want to be clear about that. But it doesn't mean by any means he's not a good athlete. In fact, he's a very good one. I just don't think he's the first percentile of NBA guys like some build him to be. He thrives as a slasher and a guy who's capable of finishing with either hand, and he's very, very good at drawing fouls. Irritatingly so while watching the game, if I'm being honest. I think his basketball IQ, though, is on full display. He knows when a defender guards where, how to hunt contact, how to manipulate the game when some player is defending him, and two comes, where the ball should swing. His processing has improved a ton, and it already was high level. So I'm very pleased by that. Defensively, I think he's the worst of these prospects in terms of what's actually the full display on the court, but that's not what we're evaluating necessarily. I think his role is so heavy in usage that defensively he gets lost at times. I think as an on-ball defender, I've seen him 4 times in person. He ends up sliding very well. He can test shots, and I think the competitiveness he possesses is really, really rare, and that'll allow him to guard one-on-one. You just got to teach him where to be on help side and to not get tired and hang his head, lose back cuts. I think he shows the ability to switch on smaller guards, and I think he will have the strength to defend bigger bodies. Now, where can he improve? I think his shot is good, but it's not great. And for someone that you're going to turn the keys over to a franchise, you want someone who can really shoot the ball. And I think his shot's flat. And for those of you who know me, you're going to laugh at this because I shoot a ball to the moon. But even people who are kind of shooting coaches would say, add 2 feet of arc. Keyonte George added arc to his shot with the Jazz, and it's paid enormous dividends. His shot right now is unrecognizable compared to year one and how flat it was. Taylor Hendricks, before being traded, was a guy who added 2 feet of arc to his shot. I think A.J. Dybantsa has shot better of late because his arc is higher, and I think that's something BYU's been intentional working with him on. And like I said, I think defensively his biggest concern is off ball. He loses focus and loses cutters. I think his defensive rotations are solid, but I think they can improve as well if we're nitpicking. And I think he needs to find a way to score without grifting for calls as much. Is it going to benefit him and play very well into what the NBA does? Absolutely. Do I think there's something to be said for the innate ability Darryn Peterson possesses to score the ball without kind of baiting fouls and playing to that? I think so. And I think AJ looks more strenuous when trying to score the basketball, whereas Darryn looks extremely fluid. AJ, let's talk about comparisons. And I, like I said, I hesitate to compare guys to first ballot Hall of Famers, but that's exactly what I'm going to have to do right here. And I think it's warranted. The main comparison people hear is Tracy McGrady. And do I see it? Yes. Is it perfect? No. Paul George is the one that I think of that I watch more with my own 2 eyes than Tracy McGrady because I'm fairly young. But while I don't hate either of those comparisons, I do think his fluidity, while he is explosive, and I want to make this clear. AJ is a guy that once he gets his first step by you, he's explosive going to the rim. But I don't find him to be this like, wow, his step was incredible every time. He's a first step run and jump guy versus a guy who can just load and explode in the midst of traffic. Like he's a long stride into his explosivity. And I think it's different than the way that Paul George had these long, slithery strides, but also could explode super quickly. And Tracy McGrady and Paul George, I think, had more refined handles. Of course they did. They were pros. And they were older at this point. But T-Mac, I think, had his handle in tandem, and they worked together with his athletic ability. I feel like AJ's got a good handle. He knows how to get where he wants, but it doesn't lead to his explosiveness. And Paul George was more of like a between the legs and a long, rangy dribble versus a super tight one. I think that's somewhere that could take AJ to a whole different level, is if he can find a way to use his handle to create extra space and then lean into more of his athleticism as opposed to his guile and cleverness to draw fouls, then I think that he could be super, super special. And like I talked about, floor, many time All-Star. Ceiling, probably a multiple-time All-Star. Excuse me, a multiple-time NBA, all-NBA first team type of guy. And that's why he will be a top 2 pick. I just don't see a world in which he falls to 3. And I think it's possible he goes 1. I think it'll be Darryn Peterson. But if the Jazz end up 1 through 3, I'm thrilled. But I'm pretty clearly sold on the floor of both Darryn Peterson and A.J. Dybantsa being just as high as Cam Boozer's, while their ceilings being higher. Now, if you talk about fit, I think he's the best fit of all of these prospects for the Utah Jazz. Why? Because you're getting a 6'9" 2 guard who's got the ability to diagnose the game, swing the ball, pass, score 25, develop further as a shooter. And also, I think being at BYU helps him understand the culture of Utah. I think there's something to be said for a comfortability when coming to Utah that many rookies do not have when coming here. I also think his game draws attention and allows for more space for a guy like Lauri Markkanen. I think Jaren Jackson really helps him defensively. He can say, okay, like you're going to learn, but Jaren Jackson erases mistakes. Walker Kessler gives him a guy to work pick and rolls and throw those dump off passes when he draws the attention. Do I think AJ will have growing pains that all rookies would have? I think his might be more prominent because of the way he plays a high dosage heliocentric way. It won't necessarily be that with the Jazz because they have so many good players. And is he going to fit in as well off the ball? Who knows? But I do think he's got the best natural fit of positions among the top prospects. All right, coming up next, does Cam Boozer come back to Utah, or is Caleb Wilson the more appealing prospect, which is many people's vibe of late? We'll talk about that next and much more on Locked On Jazz. Let me tell you all about Indeed. And Indeed is an interesting situation because if you got workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and one position you need to fill sitting wide open, the pressure's on, and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs from Indeed. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who fit and actually fit when you're looking for them. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. You have a certainty. And here's a stat for you guys. You guys know I love stats. In the minute I've been talking to you guys, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. And when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status as it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast, Locked On Jazz. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. I also want to tell you about TurboTax. Well, TurboTax, you guys know what they do. They make tax season so much easier, and it doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever, and just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert from start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they handle it all, from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they get all the deductions you deserve. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert, just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All righty, welcome back. Third segment, we're going to talk Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson. Cam Boozer, I had been drawing nearer and nearer to AJ at 2, but I tend to believe in potential over floor. And I believe in potential and ascension and stardom. And while I see Cam Boozer as someone who has an enormous floor and a fairly high ceiling, I don't want that mistaken. I see Cam's floor and his ceiling as closer to one another than the other guys. And I think he's a many-time All-Star as his floor, and I think his ceiling is probably a maybe a 1 or 2 time, maybe a 3-time All-NBA guy. Is it a great pick? Absolutely. Can he be the face of a franchise? Maybe. And the other guys, I just feel very confident can be the face of a franchise and elevate a team to true contention and take over playoff games. Offensive versatility is certainly a strength of Cam Boozer's. Many people will talk about how he doesn't have a bag or it's old school. It doesn't look cool, but he's a 3-level scorer who's comfortable in the post, mid-range, and he's comfortable in the mid-post, can operate pick and rolls, and can shoot it pretty well. Like, the guy's very versatile. What I think stands out about his versatility is where he thrives is his IQ, his vision, his polish, his decision-making as a primary facilitator from both pick and rolls or operating on the block. He sees the game really well. It looks like the Şengün, Sabonis, and Jokic ilk. He's got a big, broad frame. He rebounds the ball like a beast. He'll be a double-double guy for his entire NBA career, and he dominates against a smaller competition. Everyone says, well, you know what? He's playing bigger guys now. He won't rebound, and he won't be as good offensively. I think there's a world in which his strength advantage is mitigated. Absolutely. Do I think he'll figure a way around it and be very effective? Absolutely. The thing about him that's impressed me is for a while you'd say shot would be a weakness. Well, the guy's shooting the ball pretty well. His percentage is good. His form looks good. Is he a natural shooter? Probably not to the way that I described Darryn Peterson, but is he shooting on similar levels? In fact, better, although lesser shot difficulty than AJ Dybantsa? He is. So I think he's the best college player of the trio. I think his NBA stardom has less of a ceiling, and I think it's less certain he reaches an all NBA team versus these guys. But I do think his floor is enormously high, higher than just about anyone we've seen in recent memory. Now, where would those weaknesses be? Does he lack elite burst? Yes. Is he not the most vertically gifted jumper? Yeah. I think these are being complained about too frequently. And the bigger issue that I see is he's a tweener. And I think he's a 5 on offense and a 4 on defense. And that's a different thing. Like, you probably look at Şengün as the best example of this. Şengün offensively at the 5 is gifted. He takes advantage of smaller defenders, and he's able to score. If he plays a bigger defender, he's got this awkward, unconventional game where he pump fakes and uses footwork and not necessarily speed, but like unpredictability, and takes advantages, and he's got great vision. Boozer does that too. Defensively, he does not rim protect at the level of a 5. That is his biggest weakness to me. And you say, okay, like he can play the 4. I don't know how well he defends the quickest of the 4s that in today's NBA have tremendous versatility. And some players get hunted anyway. If we're drafting with this elite level, I think that is something that's worthwhile to nitpick and take into consideration when talking about who would you take 1. I do think his defensive spot is very uncertain and it's strange. And offensively, I think you need the right team around him to be a tweener. His defensive mobility, I think, is another one. Like, I look through my notes that I would say is average, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I think he's got the smarts to make up for those type of things, but the positional fit and how you build around a team is different. That brings me to my point here. Cam Boozer, though he reminds me, I'll give you my comp and then a point. He reminds me a bit of a modernized version of like what Kevin Love was coming out of UCLA. Kevin Love was dominant near the blocks. He was a really good rebounder. Can he protect the rim at the NBA level? No, not really. So defense was always his fault, and what prevented him from becoming like this perennial all-NBA guy was defense. Was he awesome? Is he awesome? Absolutely. And that part of like the athleticism is why people believe in Caleb Wilson. The point I want to make quickly, and we'll talk about this in another show, hopefully, is I think if the Jazz were to draft 3rd and they drafted Cam Boozer, I think you're probably seeing the last of Walker Kessler on the Jazz. I think Cam Boozer would be selected. Jaren Jackson would play the 5, who actually complements Cam Boozer wonderfully for those same warts I just talked about. Boozer can sap up the rebounds where Jaren is not a great rebounder at the 5, but he does defend the 5 very, very well. And then Boozer's an offensive hub, and you play through him, and Markkanen size and versatility shines. That I want to bring up. And then the comparison, I would say a modernized version of Kevin Love. I actually love that comparison and have thrown it around myself for a couple of years. Then there's Caleb Wilson. I'll address him quickly. Not as much time on him. Caleb Wilson's a top percentile athlete of the top percentile athletes in the NBA. And some people see him as a true member of the top 4. To me, he is number 4. I think it's Darryn Peterson, AJ Dybantsa, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson's got a competitive fire that is burning red hot. He's improved a ton. I think his motor's insatiable. His shot looks like it's improving. I do buy it to a certain extent. But what he is at his core is a defensive, all-defensive type of team member with elite versatility, defend multiple positions, can protect the rim, rebound and run, rip and run. But I don't see the same ability to be a featured guy offensively. I see his main value being defense, and offensively, he can be a secondary, maybe a tertiary option at some point. But what he does best is defend, run, and dunk. And I think there's a bit of him they want him to play small forward in the NBA. I think, honestly, he's more of a 5. Will he shoot it decently? Like I said, yes. But like at my core, what I believe Caleb Wilson is a Gerald Wallace type, if you remember him. I tweeted this out a couple months ago. He reminds me of Gerald Wallace in a Nick Claxton body. And maybe an overall better way of describing it would be like a far better on offense, souped up version of Jonathan Isaac. Like I think defensively he could be that, but he just doesn't have the same upside as the other guys. And that's why I feel more comfortable in taking the offensive upside over raw athleticism and polish that's getting better, but those other guys have polish and real athletic traits. So thank you guys for tuning in. That's my breakdown. Thank you guys for tuning in, as always, to Locked On Jazz. And tomorrow, I'll have another fun show for you guys, talking about the draft, talking Jaren Jackson, all those things. So make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Jazz, the podcast, and you'll get all the latest episodes, as well as if you join the Everydayer Club, make sure you follow that, because if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Jazz ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonjazz.supercast.com to join the club. And if you want to follow me, engage with me, give me some ideas for shows while I'm taking over for David during the All-Star break, it's just my name, Leif Thulin on Twitter. So hit me up on there. And for those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you make your second listen, NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Always a pleasure. And boy, have I waited to say these words. Go Jazz.